the people that are here, the women that are here, and Rabbi Hudson, of course, and Alex Schatz, of course, but the women that are here, you are such incredible women. Let me tell you who you are, and then you'll identify yourself. We have over here women who have gone through the Holocaust. What does that mean? We say the word Holocaust, like as though it's the Holocaust. But what does that mean? That means that they went through incredible hardships to stay Jewish, to continue on, and to bring up families, and to bring them over to the United States, and to create what? Our whole world now, our whole Jewish world. I'm a child of Holocaust survivors, right? My father had a shoe store in Williamsburg. Yeah. And so, what's this whole world that is created, all the shuls. We have Robertson Reisman here. Her husband is a rabbi, Rabbi Yisrael Reisman, from a very big shul. He gives 1 million speeches to people about being Yiddish, about being kosher, about being Shomer Shabbos.
So I am also a child of Holocaust survivors.
I know who you are now.
Yeah, right. Who else here is a child of Holocaust survivors? Just us? Anyone else?
Well, what kind of survivors? If we're talking about Holocaust survivors, that's why there's such a connection over here. So, these amazing women that you are, the reason that we are able to live here in New York and send our children to yeshiva and go to kosher restaurants and be able to keep Shabbos and to have thousands, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of little children and families that keep Pesach, that go away for Pesach, right? We all go away for Pesach. We all make big Hanukkah parties. We all make big Purim parties. We are enjoying lives as Jewish people is only because you survived the difficulties of going through concentration camps, going through being thrown out of your homes, going through traveling over to a different country, coming to a country where you didn't speak the language that they speak. You had to learn a new language. My grandmother, Bobby Stamler, she was never able to change her language. She continued speaking Yiddish her whole life. But all of you, like you all speak English, your children are educated, you have created, you are it, you are the queens of this universe, every single one of you. And for me, it's such an incredible honor to have you sitting here at my table. I just cannot express the words to thank you enough. Each and every one of you deserves a dinner, each and every one, with thousands of people there, saying to you, thank you so much for letting me live a life as a Jew, to have a home in Brooklyn, children, grandchildren. Amazing.
And great.
And great.
Wow. And the mitzvah that you are doing.
Thank you. So I think it's very important for us to all go around the room because we want to hear who you are, every one of you. But I want to tell you that you are great people, but we have, if you look around the table, you say, oh, well, who are these young ones here? They didn't survive the Holocaust, but you know what? They are also survivors, and I'm going to tell you why. These are all children, I know them all really well. They're like my own personal children. These are children that were born from parents that came over from the Soviet Union. Then when they arrived here, and they will also tell their story, when they arrived here, they did not know that they were Jewish children. They have been doing, because you have planted the seeds for them, you have shown them, you can do it, you can come over, learn the language, get educated, you can become Yiddish, you can become Jewish, live your life like Jews. They are following these young, beautiful children, and Ina, so she has gone above it. It's really true. They are following your model. Alex, he's going to tell you, he has 2 beautiful young children, a beautiful wife, Shomer Shabbos, kosher. Why is he able to do it? Because you set the model. You set it. You set the role model. And it's just my greatest honor to have both of you here, both of you who have already done the challenge, you are the role models, and that these are our children. They are following your model. It's such an honor. It's such an honor. I feel so emotional about it. And my greatest honor, Rabbi Hudson, I'm going to introduce Rabbi Hudson. He's head of an organization, RAGE, Russian American Jewish Experience. He was dean at a school called Sinai Academy where children came in. I'm sure they were not wearing yarmulkes. They did not have brisim. They did not even know that they were Jewish. Thousands of Russian children have graduated from there, and now they have families that are Jewish children, families that go to yeshiva, families that keep Shabbos. So it's such an honor, Rabbi Hudson, to have you over here. So I don't even know where to begin, because I think every person here should say who they are and what they represent. But I think, first and foremost, I would like to say that the reason this whole thing was put together, I really want to thank, I don't know where she is, Racheli Deutsch, who works for Ina. It was really her idea to bring Russian survivors. Racheli, where are you? Here she is. I'm so proud of you, Racheli. We did it, right? We planned and planned, but here we are with amazing Holocaust survivors together with our young Russian immigrant children who are following your model. And I think a perfect example, and I'm going to hand it over to you, is Ina Vernikov, who is, you're going to tell them more, but Ina is a child of Russian immigrants, correct? And Ina is now a councilwoman in New York City, part of the United States of America, representing our government. And she fights for our rights. And it is such an honor that when Racheli put this together, she said the one person we have to have there is we have to have Councilwoman Ina there to speak. Wow. And I said, yes, we really do. And to partner, to have Rabbi Hudson here, where Ina is going to tell her story about how this came together. So Ina, I now give.
Thank you so much. That was a very glorious introduction, and the expectations were set so high.
They're worth it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zefim, for having us all here. I also would like to thank Racheli. I don't know why she's disappearing. Racheli, want to come join us? But I'd really like to thank her for thinking about having this event and helping Dr. Zefim put it together. I'm also very humbled and honored to stand in front of you, all of you, especially the Holocaust survivors and the Ragers. I am, like Dr. Zefim mentioned, the council member for the 48th Council District here in Brooklyn. I represent Manhattan Beach, Brighton Beach, Sheepshead Bay, and some areas in Midwood and Gravesend. I am a child of refugees, Jewish refugees who came from the Ukraine. We came here when I was 12 years old, so I was a child. And also my grandfather's family, about 8 of his siblings were all murdered in the Holocaust. So I think this couldn't be more appropriate, especially with what's happening now in the Ukraine. And when this invasion started a couple of months ago, this was very disturbing for me to watch, for my family, and for my friends who are still in the Ukraine. I actually went to a Jewish school in Ukraine. I've never been to public school, so from 2nd grade in Ukraine, I went to a Jewish school, and I have classmates who are still in Chernovitz. That's the town where I'm from, the town of Chernovitz. It's in western Ukraine. I'm sure some of you are familiar. It's about 40 kilometers from Romania, so thank God it's not being bombed right now. They're okay, they're fine. But I'm in touch with some of my classmates. One of my classmates from my Jewish school is actually a director of Jewish life in Ukraine. And I've been in touch with him since the invasion began, almost every day. They've actually taken in close to 160,000 refugees, I believe, and there's less residents in the town. It's a relatively small town in the Ukraine. So it's just been so horrifying to watch what's happening from the beginning. And I think in the recent weeks, it's kind of slowed down for us here. You know, we had this news cycle. It was in the news almost every day. Everybody was very, very involved doing everything they can, putting in a lot of effort, sending supplies, donating money, and I think now it's kind of slowed down because you know how the news cycle goes. People are focusing on something else. So I think it's very important to keep doing what we can to support Ukraine. We've actually done a lot. Our office, we've been very involved from the very beginning. We've helped Hatala send a plane full of supplies, medical supplies, and food down there. I've sent a letter to Senator Schumer to encourage him to accept refugees. We're involved with the local communities here. We talk to attorneys. We're cooperating with attorneys to make sure that people who come here get status, they get papers. There've been certain efforts in terms of what kind of relief there is. They can now apply for parole through humanitarian parole if they want to come here from Ukraine. If refugees are already here, they can apply for temporary protection status, so they're not deported for about 18 months. So I know that, I can't imagine what it's like for all of you to watch what's happening, and I'm sure that it brings, and I know that you'll talk about it, and you'll discuss it with us and with the Ragers, but I just can't imagine what it's like for you to watch what's happening down there, and I can't imagine what kind of memories it brings up for all of you who survived horrifying times. And for me, what's really devastating to see is, yes, the United States is supplying Ukraine with arms and we're doing what we can militarily to support them, but what's been so important since the Holocaust is we've been saying never again. We'll never allow such an atrocity to take place in the world. And what we're seeing is, I don't know if we can call it a genocide, but it's definitely murder of innocent civilians, and it's definitely war crimes that are being committed by someone I consider a terrorist and a tyrant and a war criminal. And it's just disturbing to see that, if you think about it, nobody's really stopping him. We have the European Union, we have the United States of America, and yes, we're sending aid, but no one has stopped him. He is continuing his aggression against a country that is trying to be independent. They're trying to be a democracy. And as someone who's coming from the Soviet Union, and I know many of you come from the former Soviet Union, we understand what it's like to live under communism. Even if we didn't live under communism or we weren't, born into it, our families went through communism. So we're all very familiar what that's like, and we lived under the Soviet Union, so we understand that, we don't want to be a part of that. Ukraine wants to be sovereign, it wants to be independent, it wants to be a country of freedom. They want to be more like America and less like the Soviet Union, where they have freedom of speech and freedom of religion and economic opportunities. And Ukraine has been, from what I understand and from what I've been learning and hearing from my friends who live there, they've actually been pretty satisfied in the last couple of years with what Ukraine has been doing. They've been feeling free. They've been living a free life. They've been having opportunities, the kinds they didn't have under Soviet rule. And so I'm not gonna speak for much longer. I'm gonna give it over to Raheli to make some remarks. But I know that this will be a great conversation. And I'm here for all of you to support you all in any way that I can. And I guess if you have any questions, I'm free to take them.
Well, yes, when I see it on the television, all the bombings every day, and I went through that because during the war I was in Vienna in a family camp with my 3 siblings and myself and my mother, and my father was in slave labor camp, and I remember vividly that we lived in a school. I don't know, Faye, your mother was also in one of these lagers?
Yes.
Yeah.
They were in the school in Vienna.
Yeah, me too.
I actually went to go see it.
Yes, she was in the same camp.
My mother
And
was
I
together.
remember so vividly that the sirens came and there was no time, and I was a little girl at the time, and my shoes were in in the room, and I wanted to go run back and get my shoes, and my mother didn't let me. She said, no, there's no time for shoes. We gotta go to the bunkers. And sure enough, that day, we were bombed out. When we came back, the building was leveled with bomb, and my shoes was in the bomb, and it was already like October or November. It was pretty chilly, and my mother didn't know what to do, and she went from one garbage can to the next, because it wasn't like over here. You go to a garbage can, and you find all sorts of wonderful things, and there it wasn't like that. So until she found papers and rags that she wrapped it around my feet, and she realized that she has no rope. So she went and took the rag, one of the rags, and tore it out very thin, and that was the makeshift that she tied it around with my feet. And then she didn't know what to do with me, so she was working outdoors and digging the cables for the to put in cables outdoors. And then this Austrian woman comes over to her and she says, tell me, what is this child doing here without shoes and in this cold weather? And my mother told her, and she said, come with me. And she took me to the building where she lived only about a block or two away, and she put me next to this cast iron oven. That's what they heated it with. And she gave me to eat, and in the afternoon she gave me an apple, and I'm holding it and holding the apple. And she said, my child, why don't you eat this apple? And I says, I cannot possibly swallow this apple because I have 3 brothers at home, and they are also so hungry. We have to cut this apple in 4 when I get home. We have to share it. And then, okay, so my mother came for me at the end of the day, and then we were by the door, and she says to my mother, hold, don't go, wait. And she runs to the back, and she gets a pair of shoes. I still see it in front of me, like a gray high top with laces in, and she gave me the shoes. And people ask me today, why didn't you take her number, her name, and this, that you could have, thank her later on? I said, we were in such Torres Gaules, we didn't know what tomorrow is going to bring, that I'm going to take her address. I'm just, So this is one of the vivid stories that I remember. And there were some kind Germans, you couldn't put them in one category, like even she saw us with the Jewish star, that she knew that we are Jews and what my mother is doing, and she was pretty kind to us.
I was thinking maybe it would be a very nice idea, because he's going to start bringing out the food, and maybe we could have an opportunity that each person could just say who they are and where they're from for a moment. I think that would be really important. Do you want to